All right, we're here today with Shana Yates at the ADU in Mid-City. And basically, I wanted to kind of go back to the conversation we were having over there, which is that when I think of you as being the consummate artist, you know, and I really feel that in the work here in the ADU and in the main house. It feels like it's an artist's compound. And tell us a little bit about your perspective as an artist architect and how it relates to this ADU.
My partner, Jared Brunk, and I think we approach it from an artist standpoint. I mean, what is art? What is architecture? You know, is architecture just a very contrived art? I don't know, but so it's a daily thing, it's a nightly thing, you know, we sketch up something and it comes about and we just build it. So that's kind of, I'd say the process is artistic.
So we're here in the front yard of the bungalow, and we've got some experimentation in process that kind of points to the laboratory project that this whole project is. It's never ending until they say it's finished, and I don't think it'll be finished until they do their next project.
Yeah, and speaking of California Bungalow, it's very California Bungalow on the outside, but on the inside, it's a completely different experience. Should we walk them through?
Let's do it. Inside in the bungalow, Jared, Shana, and Mike completely transformed this space. I think this was subdivided into 3 rooms, probably. They blew out walls, they blew out the ceiling. What used to be an 8-foot tall ceiling is now 14 feet tall or 12 feet tall. They took it right up to the underside of the roof rafters and built these custom trusses, installed these salvaged light fixtures, and these salvaged beams we think are from Ray Bradbury's house. That is where Tom Main built his house.
Right, so on the exterior it's completely traditional, but as you enter it's completely unconventional. And you could tell because they've got this work table here. You could see them laying out drawings of the various projects that they're working on. So it doesn't have this couch seating coffee table that typical homes have. You have it on this side, but on this side it's a workstation.
Yep. On one hand, there are kind of these historical references. This feels like an old English great room focused on the fireplace. On the other hand, it's clearly an artist's studio. It is Shana's studio. You know, we see the furniture that they designed and built and her artwork in process in here. We've got the spider, you know, and insects in her art, and then we've got the insect killer. And I was talking with her about it, and she's like, yeah, light and dark. It's kind of like the yin-yang, both things going on simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah. And then as we enter into this space, it's a nice little workspace nook that I feel is very comfortable. It's got a lot of light. And so I could see myself getting away from my kids and hiding away in here and getting some work done.
Yeah, it's a really nice space, surrounded by windows on 3 sides. You've got this fin ply, phenolic resin impregnated plywood, which is one of my favorite materials. You've got the salvaged lumber from Ray Bradbury's house that became Tom and Blythe Main's home. And you've got this simple shelf. I mean, books are heavy, and this is just cantilevered off of a mounting system in the wall. This detail was brought into the new house as well.
I was just gonna say that this is the shelf from the back house. And this wood surround is also in the kitchen, and it just has this really nice characteristic to it.
And this same wood is actually the mantle on this fireplace, and we see the end cut exposes the vertical grain Douglas fir of old growth lumber. I mean, look how tight that grain is. You don't get grain like this anymore. You got to go to Oregon and find sinker logs that have been sitting at the bottom of a river for 150 years to find this kind of grain.
What's that saying that every line represents a year of age? So I don't know how
That's
many,
an old
I don't know how
tree.
that is.
And again, it's like it talks to the history of this was in Ray Bradbury's house that Tom Main tore down to build, and Jared built his house, and now it's here in their house. So there's sort of this dialogue among these houses.
I like that.
So there's so much great stuff in this little bathroom that it's one of my favorite rooms in this home. They saved all the original wood doors, sanded them down, they kept the crystal doorknobs and the original hardware, and then they turned this into kind of a wet room like you might find in Tokyo or something, where the whole room has been tiled, bathtub, and then this wonderful kind of industrial sink that they cast and then recreated in the 2 bathrooms upstairs in the new ADU. I just love that, together with really contemporary, modern fixtures, a nice soap niche, and perforated metal. You know, it's a limited palette of materials and very consistent.
Yeah, actually, I will come in because I remember Jared was saying that on one of these they've hit the P-trap. So I think, is that in the back house? It
is.
Yeah, so the cast is a little bit different on that back house.
That's right. They cast the overall volume, but got rid of the legs up there. And the sink's only this deep, so the P-trap can be within here and not be visible from down below. So what I'm intrigued by in this context is the literal marriage of design and construction.
Okay.
You know, you two are married and you have this business partnership and you did this project for yourselves and you were literally on the same team, where unlike conventional client, architect, contractor roles where there are almost firewalls in between each of those entities and it can be very adversarial, you were all on the same team as clients, contractors, and designers, and that's unusual. Tell us a little bit about that process, also with Mike Nesbit as the third designer collaborator.
So in terms of the relationships, I don't have to introduce Mike again, but Mike Nesbit did the drawings for the ADU and took them, when I say did the drawings, did the traditional like drawing set for the city to go to permit. And we pulled a permit.
I'm guessing that was a pretty minimal set. You know, that's like 6 or 8 sheets or something.
It was.
You know.
And if we go into the like conversation of like how did we get through this? How did this ADU get through with the city? We could probably hit on that point a little bit.
Yes, please.
That it was simple, but so we had the drawings, and then once the permit was pulled, you know, we're clients. Jared's the contractor, but we're all here building it and then drawing it. And so, it'd be it wouldn't be the middle of the night, but it'd be 9 o'clock at night. Our daughter's gone to bed. Okay, we're gonna do this. What do we do? Let's sketch it out. Let's draw it. You know, and there's some contention between us as to like, dude, I need some time to like put together a drawing. But,
And so you were putting together a drawing to just think out the detail. It wasn't to submit to anybody. It was just so that the 3 of you were on the same page. Like, here's how we want it to look.
Yes, 10-4.
In the kitchen, they completely opened it up, raised the roof, followed the pitch. Looks like maybe they were planning for a skylight or 2. And then it's just a few simple moves. You know, here's that rectangle again. I'd love to know, do the proportions of this match the proportions of that big window in the ADU? Do the proportions of this match that opening on the first floor? They're talking to one another. Mm-hmm. You've got like the bathroom completely tiled all the way around, salvaged lumber from Ray Bradbury's house, the vertical grain fir again, and then just simple plywood faces with, no handles. You got to reach down and open the cabinet like that, which I don't mind because it's such a clean look.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think it is symmetrical because if you look at this, it's got the 2 bays here, it's got the 2 bays here, and it's basically symmetrical minus the window. And then you've got this recessed vent hood that's in the tile here. And then one detail that I really like is this white reveal that comes around. Looks like it's about 1/2 inch from the sides and the bottom.
And this is one of those architecture words this is a riglet, a fry riglet.
Riglet, reveal?
Yeah, I mean, it is a reveal, but it's created by a riglet.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one of those geeky words that's kind of fun to use from time to time. And that people will make fun of us about.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sometimes modern architecture can be really off-putting because it's just too many hard surfaces and it's all concrete, glass, and steel, and it's not accessible. It can be, I remember being on an architecture tour with my son, and he came out and he said, I felt like I couldn't breathe in there because it was too uptight, you know? So there's a looseness here that's a little scratchy and rough around the edges and a little playful and kind of make it up as you go that I think makes it more accessible. But then at the other end of the spectrum, the sculptural school of Southern California, you know, the Tom Maines and Morphosis and Frank Gehry's of the world, and there's a detachment from form and function where you get this kind of, it's really very postmodern in a way. That's like a decorated shed, except it's decorated with structural steel that has nothing to do with the function. And so I feel like here, there's an integration of form and function, and the plan works really well. It's a very livable plan, and there's an honesty of materials, and then it's softened with the natural wood and the sunlight and the decomposed granite, you know, earth, you know, those kinds of things really make it successful.
And I think there's also an element of, it might be the perfect size. It's not too big.
I was just going to say proportions.
It's not too small. It's kind of right at that, because, you know, you elongate this 15, 20 more feet, and all of a sudden it might get too austere, might get too rigid, there's not enough program to fill it.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a sweet spot.
Don't you feel like the kitchen is the perfect size, the living is the perfect size, the bedrooms are like great? That's probably a lot of it too, is that bringing it back to human scale, the proportions are like really comfortable.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you see so much architecture or buildings going up now, development, and it's maximizing, like, you know, everything. Like, how many rooms can we get? How many doors can we? I don't, you know, it's just and this kind of says, well, no, hold on a second. Do we need a master bedroom and a master bath? You know, how much? What do you need to live? And this kind of like gives you, like, maybe all you need is a bed, a closet, and a bathroom. That's it. I don't know.
We're here in the ADU now, and it's funny because an ADU means accessory dwelling unit, which is often secondary to the main house, where here, this is really the money. You know, this is the money shot. This is the main house now, and the original house from 1917 has kind of become the secondary house.
Yeah, 1915.
15, that's right.
Yeah, for being a concrete, glass, and steel home, I was saying that the home is so comfortable. It feels warmer than it should. And a lot of that is probably due to the proportions and the setup and the floor plan and all the things that come with it.
I think that's true. It's hard to articulate, you know, the golden mean. You know, maybe this is the golden mean, but there is a subtext of scale and proportions here that really does make me feel relaxed. I think it's that scale and proportions, then it's also the materiality, that it does have a polished concrete floor, which looks a lot like terrazzo, and it's got exposed structural steel and walls of glass, but then you've also got natural materials, and you've got the patina of rust on the steel, and the notations on the structural steel from the fabricator that point to the handwork that make this architecture a lot more accessible than some.
Yeah, and the home is only 1,200 square feet, but it feels so much bigger because the spaces are so tall and the way that it's laid out. The way the floor plan works is we've got this H-shaped floor plan up here above, and you've got one bedroom on either side, and then both bathrooms are right behind it. So essentially it's symmetrical, but when you're up there, the rooms feel much bigger than they really are, especially because they've got this view down to downtown LA, and it kind of makes the exterior space an extension of the bedrooms.
So it was fun having Shana explain some of the design and construction process here, specifically the cantilevered spiral stair, that this mast is cantilevered out of the concrete foundation. It's not anchored to the roof up above, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a few cantilevered moments. So there's that post coming out of the ground, the treads are cantilevered, the dining room table is cantilevered, and so there's also moments above that we'll show you guys later where the beds are also cantilevered.
So this is a 12-foot cantilever, you know, from this point to the end of the dining room table, and it's on a massive piece of structural steel, so there's very little flexing and moving. But when you were talking about the spiral stair, it made me think about how this house is like a laboratory for the design build team, that this perforated panel is just an experiment. This isn't their final choice. And so they haven't continued it all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. They're gonna pull that off and put on something else. Similarly, the panel upstairs, could have been a curtain, and now they're thinking maybe perforated metal. And so I don't think this project's ever gonna stop until they move on to the next project.
You're right. I mean, when we were sitting down with them, there was even discussions about making this surround here that's currently plywood into steel, which would also, relate, because that's the way that this window is treated as well.
True. And I like just seeing the raw plywood. That doesn't bother me. But if they install the cold rolled steel like the countertop and the window surround, that'll complete this frame in a way that is now incomplete. But I love that work in process aspect, that there's nothing precious. It's like, put it in, look at it, see if you like it, take it out, put something else in. And that, to me, points to the artistic nature of this project. This is built by two artists.
Right. And it's evolving, and it'll continue to evolve.
Yep.
One of the things while we're here I wanted to point out is that these little screens here that we're seeing this in the soffit, that's actually a mini split system. And so in lieu of a central, HVAC, they've got mini splits up there, and they've hit them, which looks, the detail is really nice.
And they supposedly, according to Shana, never use them because they've got radiant heat in the floor, which is a very gentle form of heat that, again, makes this feel nice and warm, not cold like you would think of concrete. The radiant heat runs outside to the deck, and they rarely have to use the mini splits.
Yeah, that's also because they've got the corrugated steel on the outside, and that's actually how they run the utilities through the walls because of the CMU. They it's hard to run utilities through those. And then they've got insulation in there as well. And so between the radiant floors and the insulation, it's built a very comfortable air environment.
And they've got the overhangs protecting the glass, meeting Title 24 energy requirements. And so it's a very ecologically sensitive house, but that's sort of hidden in the background. It doesn't scream at you. I think of it as high design first and foremost. It's an art-driven house. It's a design-driven house, and yet it is ecologically sensitive.
Right. When you say art, you mean literally, because while it was being built, there's photos of Mike Nesbit. He had a installation here. You see him on a ladder right in this position here, hanging up his art, and then they had this, opening here during construction, this art opening.
That's before there was even a roof, right?
Yeah.
The windows, you can see the sky, and there's no roof.
Yeah.
It's like art drives this project from beginning to end.
Right. And then bringing up Mike Nesbit, he is a huge contributor on this project. What were we told? He was the one that submitted. He created and submitted the final drawings to get
kind of the preliminary, the permit set.
The permit set into LADBS to get this permitted while Shana was pregnant. So he was also involved with Jared building Tom Main's home. And so he's a big contributor in this. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to him about this project with him here at some point.
I'm sure we will. So what do you think? I think maybe we should take a tour upstairs.
Let's do it.
Should we walk up the stairs?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we land on this see-through deck. It's got a horizontal metal screen that allows your eye to pass through. And then down below, there's a perforated screen that you see from the lower level.
When I first came in here and I looked down, I was a little uneasy.
Got vertigo?
I got a little vertigo because when you see the B-roll of it, you could see right through. It makes you feel like, is this gonna hold? But obviously, the steel members are, beyond sufficient.
And this is kind of this is the bridge, the middle piece of the H, with one bedroom suite on this side and another on the opposite side of the bridge. And there's really no hierarchy. I was really pleased to hear Shana describe the fact that, these bedrooms and bathrooms are identical. There's no real difference between their sleeping arrangements and their daughter's sleeping arrangements, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a really nice thought. Yeah. And then being up here, the partitions are glass. So you've got visual connection from one side to the other. So I was asking Shannon, I was like, do you guys talk to each other? And she said, yeah, she'll wake up and they'll talk to each other from across the room, and you've got this visual connection, which is really nice.
And they do have this track that allows them to, make more privacy as needed, close off this door. They could add additional panels if somebody wanted more privacy, or again, a curtain could be a good option.
Yeah, they've got some hooks up here. I'm wondering if that is intended to be a curtain at some point.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but they've got really cool details. So again, the bed is fastened to the wall and it's got one post here. So it's basically hovering over the floor. And then one really cool detail is that in here, they've made the CMU block a side table for themselves. And it's like that on both sides.
I enjoyed seeing the phone charger, resting on that little CMU table.
Yeah, exactly.
This morning.
Just like that.
Yeah. But again, there's nothing extraneous. It's just the concrete block, the structural steel, the big sliders, the open web truss joists. But all this stuff had to be thought out and laid out. And Shana talked about how they would really do site drawings on, where is the plumbing going, where is the electrical going, so that it all worked and was hidden and that you don't see any of it in the spaces themselves. There's another mini split hidden away above this closet core.
Yeah, living here, you would likely be a little bit of a minimalist because this closet actually is for two people. I'm a bit of a minimalist myself, but my wife ends up taking most of the closet space. But it's a lot smaller like they were in mid-century homes. This was the closet space back then.
I was in an HPOZ meeting on Tuesday night, and the couple that was proposing a project in the Gregory Ain neighborhood was very distressed that they're not going to be able to have a big walk-in, primary closet and double vanities. It was almost just, they couldn't imagine having to live like that.
Yeah, the beams on the outside are meant to have some version of a filtered curtain or a screen.
Panel system.
We were just talking about that. There's different varying opinions between you and Jared, but I was saying Shigeru did this project in Japan with those curtains on the outside. And I was saying how nice that would be to have some curtains here, and you were saying that that's what you were thinking about originally.
Yeah. It still might happen.
It might, and that's what I love about this project and your approach is that it's a work in process, and it's not going to end until you do the next project, maybe, because it's all. I mean, I see that a perforated metal panel has been installed, and so that's an experiment, and those can all stack. But a curtain would be a different thing that would be compatible. It's just a different aesthetic. And so it's like, I feel like this whole project is a laboratory. It's an experiment, and you're, testing and questioning and critiquing and removing and replacing. And so that what's visible to me, it's also like the handwork around that I'm seeing the notations on the structural steel placed by the manufacturer and the installer. And, you see sort of evidence of the welds and the grinding, and I love seeing that handwork, and you especially see it in the renovation of the front house, all that, the hand of the craftspeople who worked on the project. Let's go out and check out these views.
Let's go. Venice's room is so cool. I wish I had a room like this when I was a kid. I think you just locked it. There we go. This also is unsettling because you could see right through it.
Yeah, it's an open metal grate with a 14-foot drop. But we're sitting on this massive structural steel. There's no real, concern other than in our minds.
Right.
I get the same feeling. I'm like, that, whoa!
Yeah, you want to step on the beam side.
Yeah, but check out these views. I mean, you got the Hollywood sign. The observatory is somewhere over there, the Wilshire Corridor. You've got downtown. Oh, there are the snow caps right there. That's San Gabriel Mountains.
That's your favorite.
Yeah, and the palm trees.
Yeah.
Spectacular view from up here.
And then if you wanted additional privacy, you've got these perforated screens that slide across.
I kind of like the idea of them just sort of pocketing off to the side. this is part of their dialogue, should they stop it here at the edge of the deck or stop them out here? Kind of, I sort of like that because it points to the fact that this structural steel is actually doing something. It's like holding these panels.
Right. Yeah, it becomes utilitarian.
Then here we have this great sycamore tree.
Oh, that's a great story.
Now that's a mistake, actually, that is beneficial to the owners.
Yeah, we were talking about mistakes earlier and how sometimes they could be actually a gift.
Yep, kind of serendipitous because this was supposed to be, I think, a third this size. They paid for a tree a third this size, and the truck and crane arrived, and this was here, and they were like, well, if you're going to give us this tree for that price, we'll take it. And so now they have a fully mature tree that really makes this space.
It really makes it. Were you thinking of this as a compound originally, and in that setting? You guys would be friends with, if you were living in the back house, you'd be friends with the people in the front house, and you'd have fires or campfires, and you'd eat out there and share food and all the things.
Yeah, that's our process is very communal, group or dynamic, and I think living, we've kind of always enjoyed communing.
Yeah, I think
go back to your word.
With more ADUs, I feel like that's where LA is going, where there'll be more of these community type spaces and housing. Yeah. Are you seeing that, Brian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the state and the city are all really in favor of densification in this way, and when we did, talking about the master planning, sort of site planning, when we did lay out the ADU, we were very conscious in setting up the grounds so that there's like outdoor rooms, basically. You have the little barbecue area, you have the play, the yard, the courtyard, you have the front, there's like another side little kind of courtyard, there's the back, and so so the outdoors becomes a place where you can interact with people and live communally, but not be in each other's.
Yeah, plus these doors slide open, and so it actually becomes a part of the space too. So the space feels a lot bigger than it really is when they're open, because basically that is a portion of your living room as well.
So I love this outdoor kitchen, and thinking again about reclaimed materials, salvaged stuff. These cabinets came from some downtown scrapyard, and they incorporated them into the outdoor kitchen, complete with the original green paint that's all kind of rusted out.
But this kitchen is very utilitarian.
What's
we were
in there?
just opening this up. Refrigerator.
Wow, I had no idea. That just completely disappears.
Yep, and then a lot of these drawers are super usable. They still glide.
I love it. That adds a lot of character to this project.
Yeah. What would you like me to make for you?
Let me have a double cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I'll make it a single.
So I know we always say this, but how lucky are we to tour these homes?
I feel like we never have to work a day in our lives. Yeah, really a privilege to visit, and want to thank Jared Brunk, the builder, and Shana Yates, the architect, and their co-collaborator, Mike Nesbit, who is also an artist, architect, builder. Really appreciate being given the opportunity to get in here.
Yeah, and you were just saying something in relation to this. I totally forgot what it was.
Oh, that I was laughing at us because I got my beard trimmed yesterday. You got a haircut. I put on my fancy pants, and it's like we're a little nervous about the visit today because to me this is pristine architecture. This I'm more excited about this house than any house I've ever been, I've ever visited or represented, and it's kind of, we don't care about price point. We don't care about neighborhood. We don't care about luxury. We never use that. For us, luxury is like a dirty word.
Or the size of the home.
Yeah, our square footage, none of that. It's really about this kind of rustic, textured, minimalist modern architecture.
This has the most character. It's the one where, people describe architecture as being soulless or having a soul. This is one of those that has a soul. And it started from the beginning during their incorporation of the art installations here and giving it that kind of energy. That's been, you could see it throughout.
Yep, I agree. It's like a spiritual experience for us being here today.
Yeah.
Also,
That was good. Woo!
All right.
Thank you, Luis.
okay. So,
Now the hard work starts.
how are we